for another deep dive. And, today we're looking at something a little different.
Oh, yeah.
It's an excerpt from this talk called The Savior's Touch. It's from the October 2019 General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But what's so interesting is that it explores this universal need.
Yeah.
This desire to be whole, healed, to be clean from burdens.
That's right. And it all starts with a story.
Oh,
It's a story of a man with leprosy approaching Jesus, asking to be healed.
So this isn't like a, hey, fix me kind of plea.
Right.
What does he say?
He says to Jesus, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean.
Wow. There's a lot of humility there.
Yeah.
He's acknowledging that he's not in control, right?
Absolutely.
Putting his trust in something bigger than himself.
Yeah.
What stands out to you in this scene?
It's that surrender, that acknowledgement of a power beyond our own.
Yeah.
The leper isn't demanding anything.
Right.
He's placing his trust in Jesus's will, believing that no matter what happens, it'll be for his ultimate good.
That's huge, right? Like that trust.
It is. It's huge.
When you're seeking help, whether it's divine or even just from another person.
Especially from another person, it takes a lot of vulnerability.
Oh, absolutely.
To be able to do that.
But admit that you don't have all the answers.
Yeah. And Jesus doesn't even hesitate.
Right.
He responds with such compassion and certainty. I will be thou clean.
So powerful.
It is.
And that kind of brings up this point about divine help.
Yes.
It doesn't always come in the way we expect or on our timetable.
Exactly.
I mean, the leper is healed instantly.
Instantaneously.
But for a lot of us, healing is a process, right?
It's a journey.
It is a journey. And that's where Zulma's story comes in.
Yes.
Facing these serious anxieties.
Yes.
The tumor surgery.
Right.
Concerns about her son's wedding.
A lot to handle.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
A lot.
And her response is so powerful.
It is.
I mean, she mirrors the leper in a lot of ways.
She does.
Choosing to surrender to a higher power.
Right.
Trusting that everything will work out the way it's supposed to. She writes in her diary, she says, on the surgeon's table, I bowed before thee, and surrendering to thy will, I fell asleep. I knew I could trust thee, knowing that nothing bad can come from thee.
Powerful.
There's a lot of courage in that statement.
A lot of courage.
And, it's like this theme is emerging.
Yes.
That surrendering to something beyond ourselves can actually be a source of strength.
Yeah.
Not weakness.
Not weakness.
But it's hard to let go.
It is very difficult.
That need to control everything.
You feel like you have to have a handle on everything.
Right. And that's where Gabriel's poem comes in.
Yes.
That Elder González shares.
Right.
He writes about feeling so overwhelmed by his own limitation.
Compared to the vastness of God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that moment of humbling honesty, recognizing his own smallness, that's when he discovers what he calls
God I can trust.
So it's like our human perspective is limited, right?
It is.
And when we admit that when we let go of the need to have all the answers, that's when we open ourselves up to a different understanding.
Exactly. That's where trust can really take root.
It's almost like hitting rock bottom and realizing that's where the solid foundation is.
I like that.
Right. Let's go back to the leper for a second.
Okay.
That moment of healing.
Yeah.
The text really emphasizes that his leprosy vanished instantly.
It is a miracle.
Like a miracle.
Yeah.
What's the significance of that immediate transformation?
It really is a striking image.
It is.
And while it does highlight the power of divine intervention, it points to a much deeper spiritual cleansing.
Okay.
Leprosy in those times, it was more than just a physical ailment.
Right.
It made the leper ritually unclean and outcast.
Oh, wow.
Christ's touch doesn't just heal his body.
Right.
It restores him to wholeness, physically and spiritually, bringing him back into the community.
That's huge. We can all relate to feeling like outcasts sometimes, burdened by things that make us feel unworthy or isolated. Like we all have those leprosy moments in life, even if they're not visible.
Absolutely.
In the world.
And what the talk suggests is that this desire for healing, for wholeness, it's deeply ingrained in all of us.
I think you're right.
It's not just about fixing what's broken on the outside. It's about finding that inner peace.
Right.
That sense of belonging and acceptance that allows us to truly live more fully.
So are you saying that everyone, regardless of their beliefs, can experience this kind of healing touch?
That's a fascinating question. And while the talk is rooted in a specific faith tradition, I think the message resonates far beyond that.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that there's a power greater than ourselves that can help us through our struggles, whether we call that power God, the universe, or even our own inner strength.
Maybe that's why the story has endured for centuries.
Could be.
It speaks to something deep within us.
It does.
That yearning for wholeness, for connection.
Yes.
But I have to admit, this idea that God doesn't always remove our burdens immediately.
Right.
That sometimes it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to grasp.
It is. You know, the talk acknowledges that God may not always remove our burdens instantly, but it does offer a way to understand them and find the strength to carry them. And it introduces this concept of covenants.
Okay, covenants. I need some help here. What are covenants in this context?
Think of them as sacred promises, either between individuals or between an individual and a higher power. These promises provide a framework for navigating hardship and ultimately finding liberation from those burdens.
So it's not about avoiding difficulty, but about having something to hold on to during those tough times.
Exactly.
A source of strength and guidance.
It's a source of hope.
That helps us move forward.
Exactly.
And that framework can be found in many forms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even outside of traditional religious contexts. It might be a commitment to personal growth.
Right.
Dedication to a cause greater than ourselves.
That's a good one.
Or even just a set of values that we hold dear.
I like that.
So you're saying that even if someone doesn't believe in a literal God, they can still find that sense of purpose and direction.
Absolutely.
It's something to hold on to when things get tough.
Yes.
It's about finding that God I can trust, whatever form that takes.
Whatever form that takes, yes.
For each individual.
For each individual, that's right.
This is really making me think.
Me too.
I feel like I'm already getting so much out of this deep dive.
Good.
Unpacking some pretty profound insights here.
We are.
And we're just getting started.
I know.
What else is there to discover in this talk?
Lots more. You know, this idea of cleansing has applications that go way beyond a strictly religious interpretation.
Right. It makes me think about, like, you know, when you say you feel clean after a good workout.
Oh, yeah.
Or finally tackling that messy closet. It's not just about physical cleanliness. It's about creating a sense of order and clarity in our lives.
I think it's, like you said, it's an innate desire within us.
To feel unburdened.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's in our physical space, in our relationships, even in our own minds.
In our minds, for sure.
So if we take that Savior's touch metaphor and apply it to our own lives, even if we're not approaching it from a religious standpoint, what does that look like?
I think it starts with identifying what Elder González might call our own personal leprosy.
Okay.
What are the things that weigh us down? What makes us feel broken or unworthy?
It could be anything, right?
Anything.
Like a past mistake that we just replay in our minds over and over.
Oh, yeah.
A relationship that's become toxic, even a negative self-image.
Especially that.
That we can't seem to shake.
It's hard to get rid of those things.
Yeah, and, you know, just like the leper in the story, we have to approach these wounds with humility and a willingness to surrender.
Now, surrender doesn't mean giving up.
Right.
It's more about acknowledging that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And being open to a different way of seeing things.
So instead of demanding that the universe bends to our will, it's more about saying, okay, I'm open to change. Show me what I need to learn.
Yes.
Stepping into the unknown with a sense of trust, even if we're feeling a little scared.
That's a great way to put it.
Really?
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a place of fear and control to a place of acceptance and curiosity.
I like that.
And that shift can be so liberating.
That can be so freeing.
What about trust?
Yeah.
You've mentioned that a couple of times.
Right.
How do we cultivate trust, especially when we're going through those difficult times?
It's not always easy, especially if we've been hurt or let down in the past.
Right.
But I think it starts with those small acts of faith.
Okay.
Maybe trusting our own intuition, you know, believing that we have the inner strength to get through tough times. Yeah. Or having faith that even when things feel totally chaotic, there's a bigger picture unfolding that we just can't see yet.
So we're not just passively waiting for a miracle.
Right.
We're actively choosing to trust.
Yeah.
Even when it feels hard.
Even when it's difficult.
And that choice empowers us to move forward with more courage and clarity.
Absolutely. It's like building a muscle.
Oh.
The more we practice trusting, the stronger that muscle gets.
I like that.
And the easier it becomes to face those life challenges with a sense of hope and resilience.
So let's get practical for a minute.
Okay.
How do we actually start cleansing those wounds, those leprosy moments, and move toward wholeness?
Right.
What are some concrete steps that we can take?
Just like physical healing, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Of course.
It's a multifaceted process that involves inner work and outer action.
Okay, walk me through that.
All right.
What does that inner work look like?
Well, it might involve therapy, journaling, meditation, or even just spending time in nature. Really, it's about creating space for self-reflection.
Okay.
Exploring those painful emotions and limiting beliefs that might be holding us back.
So we're giving ourselves permission to feel those feelings.
We are.
To acknowledge the hurt and the confusion.
Yes.
Without judging ourselves.
And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Okay.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a close friend who's struggling.
Okay, so once we've done that inner work,
yeah,
how do we start taking action in the outer world?
Well, it could be something as simple as setting healthy boundaries in our relationships.
Okay.
Learning to communicate our needs more effectively, or developing healthier coping mechanisms for stress.
So it's not about making these drastic changes overnight.
No.
It's about building healthy habits one step at a time.
It is.
And trusting that those small changes will eventually lead to bigger transformations.
Exactly. And that's where Zulma's story becomes so inspiring.
Yeah.
She actively sought medical help for her tumor. But she also made this conscious decision to surrender to a power beyond herself.
Yeah.
Trusting that she would be guided and supported through the process.
It reminds me of that line from Gabriel's poem.
Yes.
And only then do I discover the God I can trust.
Powerful.
Even if we don't see God in a literal sense.
Right.
There's something really powerful about recognizing that we're not in control of everything.
We're not.
That there's this bigger force at play.
There is.
Whether we call it the universe, fate, or simply the unfolding of life.
You got it.
And that surrender isn't about giving up our agency or becoming passive.
No, it's not.
It's about recognizing that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
You're right.
It's about trusting that we're being guided and supported.
Yes.
Even when we can't see the path ahead.
Exactly. And that's where the magic happens.
It takes the pressure off.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Sure.
It allows us to relax into the journey.
Yes.
Knowing that we're not alone.
You're not alone.
And that we don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah. We don't have to have all the answers.
Speaking of possibilities, let's talk about that carpenter of Nazareth metaphor for a second.
Okay.
How does that concept of rebuilding and restoration fit into our conversation?
Yeah.
About healing and wholeness?
It's a beautiful and powerful image.
It is.
Just as a carpenter, takes those broken pieces of wood and crafts them into something new and useful. Christ is often depicted as the one who mends our broken hearts and lives.
Okay.
Weaving his own strength and love into our being to make us whole again.
But what are those who don't view Christ in a literal sense? Does that metaphor still hold meaning?
Absolutely. I think it speaks to the inherent resilience of the human spirit.
Okay.
Our ability to take those broken pieces of our lives and create something beautiful, meaningful from them. We all have that capacity for growth and transformation.
Even if we don't attribute it to a divine being.
Even if we don't.
So it's about recognizing that our scars, those leprosy moments, don't have to define us.
They don't.
They can actually become the source of our greatest strength and wisdom.
I think you're right.
It's about embracing our imperfections, our brokenness, seeing them as opportunities for growth and evolution.
I like that.
It's about taking ownership of our stories, both the light and the shadow, and recognizing that those experiences, however painful they might have been, have shaped us into the people we are today.
Absolutely.
And that recognition can be so empowering.
It is.
It allows us to move forward with more compassion, understanding, and acceptance.
It does.
Not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
Yes.
This has been such a rich conversation.
It has.
And I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
We are.
But we're running out of time for this segment.
I know, but don't worry. We'll be right back.
Okay.
For part 3, to explore some more practical applications of these ideas.
Sounds good.
And how we can integrate them into our daily lives.
Okay, so welcome back to our deep dive into the Savior's touch. We've been talking about this idea of healing and wholeness and how those concepts can apply even if you don't follow a specific religion.
Right.
But I'm curious, how do we actually put these ideas into practice?
Yeah, it's one thing to understand the concepts, but actually putting them into action is where the real transformation happens.
Right.
And I think one of the most powerful things we can do is change how we view those leprosy moments.
Okay.
The challenges and setbacks that we all face.
Because it's so easy to get caught up in the negativity when things go wrong.
We beat ourselves up.
Yeah,
we start calling ourselves failures.
Yeah, feeling unworthy.
Exactly.
It's like a vicious cycle.
It is. So instead of seeing those tough times as something to be ashamed of, what if we looked at them as opportunities for growth and learning?
Okay, I like that.
You know, like that old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
But it's not just about being tough.
Yeah.
It's about developing more compassion, understanding resilience.
So instead of playing the blame game,
Right.
we ask ourselves, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How can I use this to become a better version of myself?
That's it, cultivate that growth mindset, the belief that our mistakes can actually teach us valuable lessons.
I love that.
It's powerful.
But that doesn't mean we just ignore the pain.
No.
Or pretend that everything's fine.
We have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Feel those difficult emotions,
Right.
but we don't let them define us.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of self-awareness and honesty.
It is.
How do we actually shift our mindset from self-criticism to self-compassion?
Well, one really powerful tool is mindfulness.
Oh, okay.
Taking the time to just observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. Becoming aware of the stories we're telling ourselves.
About those leprosy moments.
Exactly.
So if I find myself, spiraling into negative self-talk,
yeah.
I can stop and say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yes.
What's triggering these thoughts?
That's the story I'm telling myself.
Yeah, what's the story I'm telling myself about this situation?
That's right. And just by bringing awareness to those thoughts, we can start to detach from them a little.
Oh, interesting.
We create a little space between ourselves and those negative patterns.
Okay.
And that helps us see things more clearly.
So it's like we're becoming an observer of our own mind.
Yes.
Rather than getting swept away by every thought and emotion.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be so liberating.
It really can.
But once you've created that space, then you can start to challenge those negative thoughts.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on what's wrong with you, focus on your strengths.
Yeah.
Acknowledge all the ways that you've already grown and overcome challenges.
So instead of beating myself up for making a mistake, I can remind myself, hey, I messed up.
Right.
But I learned from it. I'm resilient. I'm going to get through this.
That's it. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer someone you love. That self-compassion is essential for healing.
Okay, so that's the internal stuff. But what about those external leprosy situations?
Right.
Those circumstances that are totally out of our control?
That's where surrender comes in.
Right.
Letting go of the need to control everything.
Yeah.
Trusting that there's a bigger picture unfolding that we can't always see.
And surrender's often misunderstood.
Right? It is. People think it means giving up,
Yeah.
becoming passive, but it's not about that at all.
So what is it about?
It's about recognizing that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Okay.
It's about trusting that there's a force greater than ourselves. Whether you call it God, the universe, or just the flow of life that's working for our good, even when we can't see it.
It's like Zulma surrendering on that surgeon's table,
Sure.
trusting that she was in good hands.
Exactly.
It wasn't about being powerless. It was about having the courage to let go.
And that can be so freeing.
Yeah.
You stop fighting against the current and you start flowing with it.
I like that.
And when you do that, things start to fall into place in ways you could have never planned for.
So we're not just sitting back and hoping for the best.
Right.
We're taking action.
Yes.
We're also releasing the need to control every little outcome.
It's about finding that balance between effort and surrender,
Yeah.
action, and allowing,
We do our part
do your part.
and then trust that the universe is conspiring in our favor.
It is.
Even if we can't see it yet.
Even if you can't see the evidence yet.
And that's where the magic happens.
That's where the magic happens.
It all comes back to that line from Gabriel's poem.
I love that poem.
I do too. And only then do I discover the God I can trust.
So good.
Even if we don't see God literally.
Right.
There's something so powerful about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
There is.
Whether it's a spiritual force, the wisdom of the universe, or just the unknown unfolding of life.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
I did.
It's about recognizing that we're not alone on this journey. There's a force of love and support guiding us, even when we can't see it.
And when we tap into that connection,
Yes.
we access this wellspring of strength and resilience
Absolutely.
that allows us to face any challenge with courage and grace.
You got it.
We've covered so much in this deep dive.
We have.
And I feel like I have a completely new perspective
That's great.
on healing and wholeness.
I'm glad.
I love this idea that our brokenness doesn't have to define us.
It doesn't.
That those leprosy moments, those challenges we all face, they can actually become the catalysts
They can.
for our greatest growth and transformation.
I think you're right.
And that transformation is a journey.
It is.
Not a destination.
It's ongoing.
It's about embracing the ups and downs,
Yeah.
the messiness and the beauty of life, knowing that each experience is shaping us into the people we're meant to be.
I love that.
We've talked about surrender, trust, self-compassion, the importance of reframing our challenges as opportunities.
We have.
What a powerful set of tools for navigating life.
They are powerful.
I'm so grateful for this conversation.
Me too.
And I know our listeners are too.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise.
And remember, no matter what challenges you're facing, you have the power within you to heal and transform.
You do.
Embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Trust the process. And never give up on the possibility of becoming whole.
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Deep Dive.
Of course.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of life.